So I've done this video before, and I don't know what channel I did it on. It's either on the ChEDDErTarY 931 channel or the Jazzy Entertainment channel. I know I didn't do it that long ago, but I can no longer find it, and I believe it got took down because I went into some really heavy points in that video and did a lot of tagging when it came to YouTube and Twitter. As you can see by the title for this one, why we're not getting another GTA game. And that one, I talk about why we're not getting GTA 6. Well, this is the bit of the same thing. And, there is a lot in this video that we're going to go into. It's going to be a bit long. And it's okay if it's a bit long because there are a lot of things, a lot of points we need to cover for this within the GTA community. Now, I'm 30 years old, so I do like GTA. I like Grand Theft Auto, right? So, Rockstar Games, been around since 95. And they have other games that did help them fund them and then managed to branch out to other parts of the world to put a Rockstar from here and there and there. And these are games that a lot of people, did forget about. They're most famous for a lot of their GTA series because that's their their money maker, their machine, if you will. In 97, we got the first GTA for the PS1. And then in 98, we didn't get anything. And then around the year 99 came around, we got 3 Grand Theft Auto titles, which was Grand Theft Auto London 1969, followed up by Grand Theft Auto London 1961, which is the prequel to 1969. Followed around that same year, we got Grand Theft Auto 2. Then by the year 2000 came along, we didn't get a Grand Theft Auto game. Well, followed up by the year of 2001, we got Grand Theft Auto 3. Followed up by 2002, we got Grand Theft Auto Vice City. In 2003, we didn't get a Grand Theft Auto game. So we have a total of 3 years without a Grand Theft Auto game. Now, in 2004, we got Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. I was in the 5th grade when that came out. Originally supposed to be in the 6th grade. Also in 2004, we got Grand Theft Auto Advance. Followed up by there, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, we got Liberty City Stories. And also in 2006, we got Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories. In 2007, no Grand Theft Auto game. 2008, we got Grand Theft Auto 4. Followed up also in 2008, we got Grand Theft Auto Lost and Damned. In 2009, we got Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars. In between those years, we also ended up getting, in 2009, Grand Theft Auto Battle of Gay Tony. Followed up in 2009, which was Escape from Liberty City. In 2010 through 2012, which is a total of 4 years add on to 2007 without a Grand Theft Auto game. In 2013, we got Grand Theft Auto 5, followed up by Grand Theft Auto Online. It has been 7 years since we got a Grand Theft Auto game. If you add 11 years in total, plus 7 on top of that, that is a total of 14 years without GTA putting out a Grand Theft Auto game. But if you followed up with the decade that just passed, going into another decade with another 10 years with Grand Theft Auto 5, within the next about 3 years, it's going to be about 10 years old. Well, if you take a look at the pattern of GTA games, you have parts and then you have add-on titles. My prediction was within the original video is that we were going to get Grand Theft Auto, whatever the add-on title was going to be. Not so much a part. But now, from the looks of things, if you go back to, when did the Xbox 360 come out? I'm not quite too certain. Let me Google that really quick, because I need to make sure I got this right. Go ahead and pop this up. My phone right here runs slow. Okay, Google, when did the Xbox 360 come out?
Xbox's release date is November 15th, 2001.
It's not what I wanted. When did the Xbox 360 first launch?
Its release date is November 15th, 2001.
Are you sure? That don't sound right. It says here in 2005. Well, let's go ahead and just click. So, I don't remember Xbox 360 launching in 2001 because we have the PS2. But it says here 2005. Oh. Yeah, the original model of the Xbox 360 Premium was 2005. The redesigned Slim model was in 2010. The latest model was in 2013. So 2010 sounds more correct. So we're going to go with 2010. So if you take a look when GTA 5 came out, right, which was in 2013, and you take a look at some of the things that they wanted to do with online gameplay, because the online thing was there, it just wasn't as big until it took off more so in 2013. So if we were to put 2020 plus 2000 plus 2010, no, 2020 minus, not plus, my bad, minus 2010, which is 10 years. So within the past 10 years, within the past decade, Rockstar made their money from the GTA franchise within those 10 years, from the 360 era into the PS4 era. I think the PS4 had been out for like maybe 5 years. I do believe maybe 5 years. If I remember that correctly, I want to say 5 years. So it makes sense. So within these 10 years, with one console being around for 10 years and with one console being around for 5 years, the GTA 5 online series made Rockstar a lot of money because you could play with other players worldwide, you could get more unlockables such as cars, guns, and clothing. So it makes absolute sense, right? So a lot of their money came from that. Now, I'm going to get to what we originally were supposed to get with Grand Theft Auto 5 after I get all this out the way, right? So with Grand Theft Auto 5 almost being around for 10 years now, along with the console, the 360, and the online gameplay being around for 10 years, also falling into the PS4 era as that going into the PS5 era pretty soon within the next year. We haven't gotten anything new. You know, a lot of the executives, a lot of the company figureheads, a lot of the people who worked within the graphing, the development, the art, the audio, the effects, everything that goes into a company when making a game, a lot of them been there for so long that it was time to change hands. People wanted to move on. Now, of course, when that happens and when they make the statements that they do, it's usually something else going on behind the scenes, and you know, I'll get to that and I'll use an example. But now we have, you know, new people coming in, which then leads me, you know, exactly into, you know, why we're not probably going to get another Grand Theft Auto game. Because if you take a look at what we were originally supposed to get, we were supposed to get 4 people in exchange. We never got that. Because we get 3 people to play as, we were supposed to get 4. One of the original DLCs was supposed to be a zombie DLC for Grand Theft Auto 5. We never got. Along with that, there was so much that they could have added, because the 360 till this day is the second biggest engine for a console, followed up with the PS4, which is up there in the top 2 engines of a game console. And of course, when GTA 5, when PS5 comes out, it's going to be the third base big console with the big engine. So there's a lot of stuff that they can do there. If you go back and you look right to what I said about some of the statements that were put out, you know there's something going on behind the scenes. Well, if you take a look at I know some people are going to see this video are not going to remember what I said. Or, I don't want to say, God, I don't want to use that word, not remember what I said, but none of this is really written out for me to kind of talk clearly. A lot of people are not going to remember what I'm about to say because a lot of you guys weren't probably born yet, and I get it. I was around before Cartoon Network was invented. You know, when Saturday morning cartoons or cartoon weekends were titled, that was real. And if you take a look at WB Kids, Fox Kids, Cartoon Network, Jetix, followed by Nickelodeon, there was this blonde-headed bimbo who was a really high executive who completely came through and destroyed those companies. That's why all the merchandise and all the good shows, completely went away, and why a lot of people lost their job. Eventually, she did this as a corrupt person because she was stealing money, doing all this from these companies. And eventually, she did get caught. She is doing time. She's not going to get out. Well, that's because when you have people that's been working at a company for so long, it's time to go on, because usually a company that's on top of them holding it up went under. And Hanna-Barbera company, by the makers of Hanna-Barbera themselves, did go out of business when Cartoon Network got up on its own leg. And once that happened, Cartoon Network was doing a float for a while, but eventually that float and that ship sank, and that's how we got the Cartoon Network we got today, which is completely dead. And a lot of these other shows that a lot of you younger kids may hear about that you guys no longer see, because a lot of that went away when you give somebody with absolute no experience in terms of managementship, fundingship, any type of leadership, or anything to do with running a company, somebody who has stuff handed to them because their daddy works for the entertainment business. A lot of stuff is handed to their children very easy, so they ain't got to go to school for that. And this is exactly what happened with this woman, which is a great example. I believe there's another company that held Rockstar afloat. Once that company went away, we see Rockstar exchanging hands, and now we see with them being pretty much corrupted with politics, which comes money. So it's not all about, okay, just because we want what we want, we're not going to get it, so they're going to give us something else. Now, I understand every 5 years there's a generation gap. Every 10 years we're going into another decade, right? Well, you can release another GTA game, because if they don't have to practically keep up with the times. All you got to do is take a look back at the first 6 years, from the fashion, the music, the technology, the cars that were out, the entertainment, the culture, the pop culture, the hip hop culture, the punk culture, the rock culture, and put that into one game, and then place that within the year 2020. Because if you take a look at the previous games that I mentioned, right, like, for example, Grand Theft Auto, London 69, that took place in 1969, even though that game went out in 1999. The same thing with Grand Theft Auto London 1961, that also came out in 1999, right? The terms of Vice City, that took place in the 80s, but the game itself, released in 2006. In 2004, we got San Andreas. San Andreas takes place in the 90s, even though the game came out in 2004. Those are my two eras, my two decades. So it doesn't have to be up to par. If you take a look at Rockstar's two other biggest games, which is the Red Dead franchise, from Red Dead Revolver, Red Dead Redemption 1, then Red Dead Redemption 2, those take place within the 1700s at the most, if not the early 1900s. And they don't have any technology in that game. And everyone loved those games. So it doesn't have to be up to par with the times. It doesn't have to be up to par with that. There is a lot that they can truly do with these games, because on the back side of this, some of the biggest game maps that are considered GTA-esque games, like Scarface, was a big map, because there's a lot inside that game alone. Mafia 1 was a big map. Mafia 2 was a big map. Mafia 3 was a big map, and it was bigger than Grand Theft Auto 5 map. RDR 1 was a bigger map than Vice City. RDR 2 map is bigger than Mafia 3 and Grand Theft Auto 5's map. Driver 3 was bigger than Vice City's map. So you have some of the biggest maps of games when it comes to GTA type style games. Because of this, I go into this conversation of why we're not going to get another Grand Theft Auto game, because they're so focused on online content that they're going to make their money. Because yes, you can add a new story like they've been doing, but does anybody really play the story? No. A lot of people go on there, from what I see, purchase shark cards, get a lot of money from the shark cards digitally for the game, and buy all the new clothes, all the new weapons, and all the new vehicles, and go off and do their own thing, which is fine and dandy. There's nothing wrong with that. But eventually, when you keep reproducing the same game for the past several years, from the 360 version, the special edit edition, and then the PS4 version, and then the Xbox One version, followed up by another special edit version, and then next year you're releasing the same game for a different console, what more can you truly do? Yes, the PS5 looks nice. I'm not going to deny that. I will plan on getting one, right, depending on what the price is. And do I think rebuying another Grand Theft Auto 5 for another console is worth it? No, because the same mistake was made with Grand Theft Auto San Andreas when it got released to the 360. I thought it was going to be the better version, and it turns out it wasn't. It was the worst version of the game. The better version of Grand Theft Auto 5 was the PS4 version. It was a much more better version of the game compared to the 360 version. What more can you truly add to the game? Well, one, if you want to, you can do this, which is this ideas. You can add the zombie DLC to the game, which was originally supposed to be planned for the 360 version. Never happened. You can add that fourth character to play as. You can add some deleted dialogue, some deleted scenes. They did that for the Batman Return to Arkham series when they transported those two games from Arkham Asylum, Arkham City to the PS4. Because of that, the PS4 version of those Batman games are the more superior version. If you want to, because a lot of people like myself, we don't play online, so we're not going to get all the guns, all the weapons, and all the clothes. So what they can do, they can add all the weapons, all the cars, and all the clothes. It may not have to be all of them, but a good majority of them, for the people that just want to play single player, who don't play online. Those are things that you can add, definitely to it. But if it's just going to be the same copy and paste from the PS4 to the PS5, it's not going to be worth going out there and buying, the same game for like $70, $60, whatever tax in whatever state you stay in. Like state I live in is like $5-10 tax on top of that, $60 to $70. But the same thing with RDR2, right? Yes, I like RDR2, but the elephant in the room is, once you complete the campaign mission, and if you don't do online, even with online, there's really not much you can do, so it's going to get boring. So what is it that you can add to the PS5 version of RDR2? Well, you can add the deleted scene, the deleted opening, the deleted gameplay of how the Blackwater incident happened. You can add some deleted dialogue, some deleted scenes, such as seeing how Karen got kidnapped and how he got his head chopped off. You can add what happened and how truly John Marston's daughter died, because if you guys go back to RDR1, he talks about having a daughter, but she didn't make it at birth. Where is she buried at? And I do know that with RDR1, that is in the discussion of being remade by Rockstar because of RDR2, and it's gonna fix a lot of those. It's gonna really refix RDR1, because there's a lot of problems now because of RDR2, and a lot of map problems as well when it comes to locations. You can add, a zombie mode to RDR2 for the PS5 if you don't want to do an Undead Nightmare 2 DLC, but I think a lot of people are going to want an Undead Nightmare 2 DLC. even going back, you can add a DLC, an actual DLC story to Grand Theft Auto 5 when it comes to Mount Chiliad itself and everything that's been going on for the past years with the theories and stuff. You can take that same concept, since there's like UFOs and stuff in RDR2, you could take that same concept and add it into the world of the Western days, or add something creepy to it, right? Like, how would you play out things in this scenario in this time compared to like the GTA 5 time, right? Since the decades and the years are so different, and one era has technology and the other one doesn't. So how would you survive in certain situations when it comes to one era compared to another? So that's the real question of what can you add new to GTA 5 and RDR2, right? Because by the time those come out, I think what we're seeing now is definitely the end of Rockstar, and I don't see Grand Theft Auto 5 selling again physically, not even digital download for PS5. RDR2 might sell. I mean, it probably will sell. Probably won't sell as much, but it'll definitely sell. They'll definitely make some money on it. But I'm not going to go rush out there and buy a copy for it unless I see something truly new from other players who are going to be talking about it on YouTube and be able to see these things. And then I'll say, okay, you know what? I like that. I might buy it. But then I want to sit back and wait and see what Rockstar wants to add to that to make it better, to see what they can add. Because if they're just planning on a copy and paste and not adding anything new to these games, then it's not going to be worth that $70 for purchase for people. It's not going to be worth it. So where I stand, I'm not going to go out there and purchase them. And I think it's a very clear sign, because they have a lot of canceled projects such as Bully 2. Now, I never played Bully 1, but they have a lot of canceled projects such as Bully 2. A lot of their ideas that sounded great in the past, before like having female antagonists and certain things, well, that sounds great, but they don't want to do that. There were ideas where, you can go back and you can remaster, San Andreas to try to make it better for the PS5 if you want. Even with Vice City, things such as that nature, or even Lost in the Damned or the Battle of Gay Tony, right? But then you have the other problem in the room, is that we're always at the same two locations within these Grand Theft Auto games. It's either New York or California. New York, California is nice, but we want somewhere different. We don't get a lot of different areas. The only different area that we truly had within Grand Theft Auto itself was Vice City. Some of the other games that are, Grand Theft Auto type, like Scarface, that takes place down in Florida. Mafia 1 and 2 takes place in Brooklyn and also the Bronx. Mafia 3 takes place down in Louisiana. Red Dead 1 takes place down in Texas. Red Dead 2 obviously is a mixture of Montana, Texas, and Louisiana. And Driver 3 takes place in Miami, right, which is Florida. So I think, players, it's not that, I think, is that I know we want different new locations. We don't want the same locations that we've been getting. But I think now it's very obviously, with the changing of new hands and new executives within the company and the much money that they're pulling in from the online stuff, is that, okay, we don't care about another GTA game. We know what the fans want. We hear you, but you're not going to get it. So what we're going to give to you is something that you already have, and we're going to make more money. And then we're going to put that money back into the same thing. Eventually now it's getting to the point where this is not going to sell good for GTA 5. I see this actually being the downfall of Rockstar, and to the point where I say we are not going to get another Grand Theft Auto title or another Grand Theft Auto whatever. We're just not going to get another Grand Theft Auto game. And I see the same thing with Red Dead as well. I don't think we're going to get a Red Dead Redemption 3. I don't think we're going to get a DLCs for Red Dead Redemption 2. I think if anything we're going to get is probably Red Dead 1, but a remake, like they've been talking about, or remastered, whatever term that you guys want to use. I believe remake, remastered is the better concept of that. which is fine because I wouldn't mind playing the better version of that game for a PS5. But I don't expect anything else with Rockstar after this. I think the next step after they put in RDR1 in development for remake slash remaster, and then try to add whatever BS stuff they want to add to the online version of Grand Theft Auto 5. I think after that, it's probably going to be the downfall where a lot of people may end up losing their jobs, to where a lot of people are going to be let go, if not bankruptcy for the company, and then boom, like, that's it. You know, they've been around for so long that I think now with what we're seeing is not just the end, but we're seeing the downfall. We're seeing Rockstar hit a wall, ran out of creativity, and I do believe Grand Theft Auto 5 is the last Grand Theft Auto title for all Grand Theft Auto fans, which is very sad, but I see this happening, and I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 3 years we actually see the doors close at Rockstar for good. And what's going to beg the conversation when the time comes, who's going to buy the titles and the rights to their games, and who's going to keep developing? Because if you look at Telltale, they closed their doors last year, and Skybound bought the rights to the Walking Dead games, also to Wolf Among Us and Batman. So they're going to be continuing those franchises. Even though they're not known for gaming, but they're going to be, and we're going to see how well they do. And, you know, not too many other game companies are really around anymore. You know, a lot of the ones I grew up with, they're gone. They no longer exist. You know, their doors been closed. And it's always the same issue, because we get a higher person who is above these companies. They tend to cut them off because of financial, or they no longer want to do business, and then they send in another higher person with absolutely no type of experience whatsoever and ruins these companies, and then runs away with the money. Then once they're getting low enough to living off the high horse per se, then their day of reckoning comes where they get caught, get thrown in prison, and then that's it. I believe that's what we're seeing with Rockstar. Somebody's going to come in, if not already, ruin everything, run off with the money, and then get thrown in prison. So don't be surprised by the time 2023 or 2025 comes around and we hear the news of Rockstar Games doors closing, and then next thing you know, a whole truth comes out about it, like I've been describing. You know, I seen that happen again to Fox Kids, WB. I seen that happen to Jetix, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon. They bring in somebody, ruin everything, run off with the money, and then once that money runs out, then they get caught because they have no more money to stay afloat. And that's how the world of judgment, in terms of the law field, within the 50 of 5 to the 49-50 law of power works. You're good as a free criminal when you have money, but when that money starts running low, the protection goes away, and then the higher powers throw you to the wolves to face your day of judgment, and then you go away, and then you're completely forgotten about. So money brings power, but once that money's gone, that power goes away. Just like we've seen with the blonde-headed woman I talked about, she ruined a lot of these networks. I guarantee you this is the same thing that's happening right now to Rockstar. Why are they changing executives? Why a lot of people are going away? Why a lot of people are losing their jobs? It's because there's one person who is hired above these people, who's coming through, taking out each game company, having the money to stay above float, and then they want to target the biggest one, which is going to be Rockstar. Once we hear about Rockstar closing their doors, I guarantee you it is one person who's being the front person, the figurehead with the money, but it's the person above them that's making all this happen. And once that money runs out for that person, like I might be 45 years old by the time this person gets caught and the money starts running out, and then boom, this person goes away for a long time. And then the person and the company behind everything's gonna come out of nowhere and be like, okay, we got the rights to all these games, this is what we're gonna be doing, and then they're gonna be making all the money. I guarantee you that's what's going on. It always is, it never seems to fail at all. I've seen it happen one too many times. Look at Universal, for example. Universal used to be one of the biggest franchise movie studios in the world. Like their brand, their movies were everywhere. Their Universal Studio theme park, they're closing down because they can no longer stay afloat to keep the doors open. A lot of employees got cut off. A lot of the rides, a lot of their rights to certain titles, such as with stuff to do with Halloween, Marvel, and Star Wars, they had to let that go. They couldn't afford it anymore. You no longer see people hitting up Universal Studios to make movies because they're no longer they're no longer in high demand. You don't hear about artists signing to Universal Studios when it comes to music because they haven't been heard for music in many of years. And because of that, Scott Storch had to leave, to go about his own thing. Universal's pretty much done for. That's it. They had a run for many decades, but eventually the time comes when you're no longer, recommended, and then the money is gonna go so quick, and then next thing you know, everything has to go because the money's now gone. People thought Universal was gonna be forever. Nothing's ever forever in this world. There's a beginning to everything, and then you got that crazy train people want to ride, but eventually there's an end to everything because that train comes to a stop. There's a beginning and a middle for in life, just like us humans. We're born, we age, and eventually we pass on to the next life. It's how it goes, even within the land of dirty business and politics. And with a lot of these companies, you're gonna have dirty money coming in from the streets from big drug dealers, but eventually that money stops because the drug dealers get busted. So then you no longer have the money when it comes to the streets of politics either. Like for example, there was once upon a time where boxing was at its highest, right? But it wasn't making much money. Then it fell off, and then the boxing, and then they were making tons of money, and they were calling them purses back in the day. They would bring in large amount of money, which equal to large amount of purses when it comes to money per se, not actual purses, but the slang term for money. So you had a lot of the boxing industry back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s making a lot of money. People think boxing is, today's boxing now is a lot of money. It's not making as much money today like it was back then because the mafia is no longer involved. The mafia came and then went. So that's what I mean by the politics of street money, because you're going to get invested with people like that. They're going to bring this into a float. You had the mafia's money involved in movies back in the day. Now not so much anymore. Some of the biggest titles that the younger people play today, I may not play them because they're not my cup of tea. Like the fantasy type of games, Fortnite, Call of Duty, Halo. With the online stuff is popular, so that's gonna stay afloat. There's no telling for how long, but eventually understanding that's what's hot. It may again I'm an older cat, so that's not my cup of tea, but eventually I'm gonna plan on recording a video sometime tomorrow when I'm out walking around the loop, talking about my history of gaming and the era that I come from and the games that I play. But I do think, to conclude this video, because it's going on 35 minutes, we're not going to get another Grand Theft Auto game, and we're going to eventually, within the next several years, see the doors close on Rockstar. And then when that happens, I want somebody who watched this video to come back to this video because I told you so. And because of what I explained, you already know. So with that being said, I'm out. I'm sorry that this video is long, but this is something that needed to be discussed.